In the small village of Kijiji lived Henry and Mabel, a couple known for their deep love and devotion to each other. Henry, a tall and handsome man with dreams as vast as the sky, had always been the heartthrob of the village. Mabel, on the other hand, was the epitome of grace and kindness. They met during a village festival, where Henry's charm and Mabel's radiant smile drew them together like magnets. Their courtship was the talk of Kijiji. Henry, with his infectious laughter and boundless energy, was always coming up with ways to impress Mabel. He would carve her beautiful wooden trinkets, sing her songs under the moonlight, and share stories of the future he envisioned for them. Mabel, captivated by his vision and spirit, fell deeply in love. They married in a joyous ceremony attended by everyone in the village, their union seen as a promise of happiness and prosperity. Life was simple but content for the young couple. Henry worked as a farmer, toiling under the sun to provide for his family, while Mabel took care of their home and, soon enough, their beautiful daughter Ella, who became the apple of their eyes. Ella's laughter filled their days with joy, and their home was a haven of love and warmth. However, beneath Henry's jovial exterior was a restless soul. He often sat under the stars, dreaming of a life beyond the confines of Kijiji. The tales of the city, with its bright lights and endless opportunities, captivated his imagination. He felt constrained by the village life, yearning for something more than the simplicity that Kijiji offered. Mabel, content with their humble but happy life, never understood his desires. She loved Henry deeply and believed that their small family, bound by love, was enough. She worked tirelessly beside him, supporting his dreams while nurturing their daughter. But Henry's longing for the city grew stronger with each passing day. One night, after Ella had been tucked into bed, Henry and Mabel sat outside their mud house, the cool night air filled with the sounds of crickets. Henry broached the subject once again, expressing his frustration with their stagnant life and his burning desire to move to the city. Mabel listened patiently but firmly expressed her contentment with their life in Kijiji. The argument escalated, their voices carrying through the quiet night. "Henry, our life here is good," Mabel pleaded. "We have each other. We have Ella. What more do we need?" "I need more, Mabel. I need to see what's out there. The city has opportunities that we can't even imagine," Henry argued, his eyes alight with determination. The tension between them was palpable. Mabel's heart ached as she saw the yearning in Henry's eyes, but she couldn't bear the thought of leaving their home. That night, they went to bed without resolving the argument, a heavy silence hanging between them. As Mabel slept, Henry lay awake, his mind racing. In the early hours of the morning, he made a drastic decision. He quietly packed a bag and took the family's savings, which they had painstakingly gathered for Ella's education and their future needs. Before the break of dawn, he slipped out of their mud house, leaving behind a note that simply read, "I need more. I'm going to the city. Forgive me." When Mabel woke up, she found Henry gone and the savings missing. Her heart shattered as she read the note. How could he leave them like this? Tears streamed down her face, but she knew she had to stay strong for Ella. With no money and no help, Mabel took on various menial jobs to provide for her daughter, who was too young to understand why her father had left. The villagers soon noticed Henry's absence and began to talk. Some pitied Mabel, while others mocked her, suggesting that she had driven him away. "It's no surprise he left," one woman whispered to another at the market. "He always had dreams bigger than this village." "Poor Mabel," another replied. "Now she's left to pick up the pieces, and with a young child to care for." Mabel heard these whispers but chose to ignore them. She focused on surviving for the sake of her daughter. She worked in the fields from dawn till dusk, took up laundry jobs for wealthier families, and even sold firewood at the market. The work was grueling, and there were days when her body ached and her spirit was close to breaking. But she persevered, driven by her love for Ella and the hope that one day life would get better. Days turned into weeks and weeks into months. Mabel struggled, but she never gave up. She often found herself gazing at the road Henry had taken, hoping he would return. But the reality was harsh, and she knew she had to fend for herself and her daughter. The villagers whispered behind her back, but she ignored them, focusing only on Ella and their survival. Despite the hardships, Mabel's love for Ella kept her going. She taught her daughter the values of hard work, resilience, and kindness. Meanwhile, Henry arrived in the bustling city of Lagos, his heart pounding with excitement and anticipation. The city was everything he had imagined and more. The towering buildings, the constant buzz of activity, and the dazzling lights at night filled him with a sense of boundless possibilities. With the stolen money, he secured a small apartment in a lively neighborhood and began his search for work. It wasn't long before Henry found a job as a clerk in a large trading company. His charm and quick wit quickly set him apart from his colleagues. He was ambitious and eager to climb the corporate ladder, often staying late to impress his superiors. Within a few months, he received his first promotion. The salary increase allowed him to move into a better apartment and afford a more comfortable lifestyle. Henry's life in the city was a whirlwind of new experiences. He embraced the urban culture, indulging in the luxuries that Lagos offered. He frequented upscale restaurants, attended social events, and made influential friends. His charismatic personality and knack for business endeared him to many, and soon, Henry became a well-known figure in his community. With his newfound status and wealth, Henry felt invincible. He relished in the admiration and respect he received, basking in the glory of his success. The memory of Mabel and Ella, the family he had abandoned, faded into the background. He justified his actions by convincing himself that he deserved this life, that he had done what was necessary to achieve his dreams. One evening, at a lavish party hosted by one of his business associates, Henry met Yemi. She was a beautiful and sophisticated woman, enchanted by Henry's stories of success and his confident demeanor. They danced and talked late into the night, finding an immediate connection. Yemi admired Henry's ambition and the life he had built for himself. Their courtship was swift and intense, and within a year, they were married in a grand ceremony. Yemi's family was wealthy, and their marriage further elevated Henry's social standing. They moved into a spacious house in a prestigious neighborhood, decorated with the finest furniture and adorned with artwork from around the world. Henry provided Yemi with everything she desired, and she, in turn, supported him in his career, hosting elegant dinners and helping him network with influential people. Soon, Yemi gave birth to their first child, a boy named Tunde. 2 years later, they welcomed a daughter, Amanda. Henry was overjoyed. His life seemed perfect. He had a beautiful wife, 2 wonderful children, and a thriving career. He reveled in his role as a father and husband, showering his family with love and affection. Henry's business ventures continued to flourish. He expanded his network, invested in new opportunities, and reaped significant profits. His name became synonymous with success, and he was often invited to speak at business conferences and social events. The city adored him, and Henry thrived on the admiration and recognition. Despite his outward success and happiness, there were moments when Henry's past would creep into his thoughts. Late at night, after Yemi and the children had gone to bed, he would sometimes think of Mabel and Ella. He wondered how they were faring, if they were safe and happy. But these thoughts were fleeting, quickly overshadowed by the demands and pleasures of his current life. Henry had become a master at compartmentalizing his emotions, pushing away any guilt or remorse that threatened to surface. Henry's dismissal of his past and his callous indifference to Mabel and Ella's plight revealed the depth of his transformation. He had become a man driven solely by ambition and self-interest, blind to the consequences of his actions on those he had once loved. The city had changed him, molding him into someone who valued success and luxury above all else. As the years passed, Henry's wealth and influence grew. He continued to climb the corporate ladder, eventually becoming a partner in the trading company. He expanded his investments, branching into real estate and other lucrative ventures. His name became even more prominent, synonymous with power and affluence. Yet, despite his material success, Henry's life was built on a foundation of deceit and abandonment. He had achieved his dreams, but at the cost of his integrity and the happiness of his first family. The city had given him everything he had ever wanted, but it had also taken away his sense of morality and empathy. Back in Kijiji, Mabel's life was a daily battle against poverty and despair. The villagers were well aware of Henry's departure, and while some offered their sympathy, others saw it as an opportunity to belittle or exploit her. Mabel, however, was a pillar of strength. She worked tirelessly in the fields from dawn till dusk, did laundry for wealthier families, and sold firewood and fish at the market. Her hands were rough and calloused from labor, and her body ached from the relentless toil, but she refused to give in. Ella, now a young girl with her mother's resilience and determination, did her best to lighten the burden. She would accompany Mabel to the fields, help with household chores, and sell fish in the market. The two of them were a team, bonded by their shared struggles and unwavering love for each other. Yet the weight of their circumstances often felt overwhelming. One day, while selling fish in the bustling village market, Mabel overheard a conversation that would change their lives forever. She was arranging her fish on the wooden stall when she caught snippets of a conversation between two women standing nearby. "Have you heard?" one woman said excitedly. "Mr. Bio in the city is looking for a cook. He's willing to pay well and provide accommodation." Mabel's heart skipped a beat. The city, the same city that had taken Henry from her. But this was different. This was an opportunity, not an escape. Summoning her courage, she approached the women and inquired about the job. They looked at her with a mix of pity and curiosity, but shared the details. A few days later, Mabel met the agent responsible for finding employees for wealthy households in the city. The agent, Mr. Paul, was a well-dressed man in his late 50s with a kind face. He listened to Mabel's story with empathy and was moved by her determination to provide a better life for her daughter. He assured her that he would help them. Mr. Paul arranged everything. He personally escorted Mabel and Ella to Lagos, ensuring they were comfortable during the journey. Mabel, holding Erica's hand tightly, felt a mixture of fear and excitement as they traveled. The city was a stark contrast to their village, noisy, crowded, and vibrant. Mabel's nerves were calmed by Mr. Paul's reassuring presence. Upon arriving at Mr. Bio's grand house, Mabel was struck by its size and elegance. She had never seen such luxury. Mr. Bio, a kind and affluent businessman, welcomed them warmly. Mabel's initial nerves were eased by his gentle demeanor. During the interview, she explained her situation, her past struggles, and her hopes for Ella's future. Bio, impressed by her honesty and fortitude, hired her on the spot. Mabel's work as a cook in Mr. Bio's household was challenging but fulfilling. She poured her heart into preparing meals, using her skills and creativity to impress Bio and his guests. Her dedication did not go unnoticed. Bio was not only pleased with her culinary expertise, but also moved by her diligence and unwavering spirit. Ella, too, thrived in the new environment. She was enrolled in a good school and quickly adapted to city life. Bio took a special interest in her education, treating her as if she were his own daughter. The bond between them grew stronger each day, and Ella began to see him as a father figure. As months turned into years, Bio's affection for Mabel blossomed into love. He admired her strength, her kindness, and the way she had faced life's challenges with grace. One evening, in a quiet moment after dinner, he expressed his feelings to Mabel. She was taken aback, but deep down, she had developed feelings for him too. His proposal was heartfelt and sincere, and Mabel, after considering the depth of his love and the stability he offered, accepted. Their wedding was a beautiful affair, attended by close friends and family. Mabel could hardly believe her fortune. From the depths of struggle in Kijiji to the warmth of a loving home in Lagos, her life had transformed in ways she had never imagined. Bio adored her and treated both her and Ella with the utmost respect and affection. Their happiness reached its peak when Mabel gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. The house was filled with laughter and joy, and for the first time in many years, Mabel felt a profound sense of peace and fulfillment. She often thought about her journey, from the hardships of Kijiji to the blessings she now enjoyed, and felt immense gratitude. Her new life with Bio and their children were a testament to the power of perseverance and the belief that despite the darkest of times, brighter days were always ahead. 10 years had passed since Henry left Kijiji and started his new life in Lagos. He had built a successful career, married Yemi, and had 2 children. On the surface, his life seemed perfect. However, the ghosts of his past were slowly catching up with him. One evening, Henry returned home from work, exhausted but content. He had just secured a significant deal that would further elevate his status in the business world. Yemi greeted him with a warm smile, but there was an undercurrent of tension that Henry did not notice. She had found something that day which had shaken her to her core. Earlier that afternoon, while cleaning out the attic, Yemi stumbled upon an old dusty box. Curious, she opened it and found an old photograph. It was a picture of a younger Henry, smiling alongside a woman and a young girl. They looked happy, like a family. The discovery hit Yemi like a ton of bricks. She had never seen this photo before and had no idea who the woman and child were. Yemi's hands trembled as she held the photograph. She felt a wave of anger and betrayal wash over her. How could the man she loved and respected have such a secretive and deceitful past? Her mind raced with questions and doubts. She knew she had to confront Henry and demand the truth. That evening, after dinner, Yemi could no longer contain her emotions. She took the photograph and placed it on the dining table. Henry looked up, puzzled by her serious demeanor. "What's this?" he asked. Yemi's voice was cold and steady. "I found this in the attic. Care to explain?" Henry's face paled as he recognized the photograph. His mind scrambled for an explanation, but he knew the truth could not be hidden any longer. He took a deep breath and began to speak, his voice heavy with shame. He recounted his life in Kijiji, his marriage to Mabel, and how he had abandoned her and their daughter for a chance at a better life in the city. He tried to justify his actions, but the words felt hollow even to his own ears. Yemi listened in silence, her eyes filled with a mix of anger and sorrow. When Kofi finished, she stood up, her expression resolute. "I can't believe you did this. You left your family to suffer while you built a life of luxury. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for this." The news of Henry's deceitful past spread quickly. Yemi confided in her close friends, who were shocked and appalled by the revelations. The gossip soon reached Henry's business partners and associates. His carefully crafted image began to crumble. Trust, once lost, is hard to regain, and Henry's credibility was severely damaged. One by one, his business partners distanced themselves from him. Clients withdrew their contracts, and deals that had seemed secure fell apart. Henry's business ventures started failing, and he soon found himself buried in debt. The respect and admiration Henry had enjoyed vanished, replaced by suspicion and disdain. His social standing plummeted, and he found himself isolated, both professionally and personally. Amidst the chaos, Henry struggled to keep his family together. Yemi, hurt and disillusioned, withdrew emotionally. She focused on their children, Tunde and Amanda, shielding them from the turmoil. Henry tried to reach out to her, to explain and apologize, but the damage was done. The trust between them was shattered. Eventually, Yemi filed for a divorce and took their children with her. Henry was left alone and miserable, living in a small, rundown apartment. He found himself drinking more, trying to numb the pain and guilt. Nights were sleepless, filled with regret and self-loathing. Henry decided to look for a job to sustain himself. He could no longer rely on his business ventures, as they had crumbled along with his reputation. Desperate for work, Henry scoured the city for any job he could find. One day, he saw a job advertisement for a driver at a wealthy household. He applied, hoping this could be a fresh start. The address led him to an impressive mansion, and as he approached, he marveled at its grandeur. As he approached the mansion for the interview, his heart pounded. When he arrived at the gate, he was greeted by a young woman who led him inside. As he waited in the lavish living room, he heard a familiar voice calling out. His heart sank. Mabel walked into the room, her presence commanding and serene. She was followed by Ella, who had grown into a beautiful, confident young woman. Both were elegantly dressed, their faces reflecting a life of comfort and happiness. Henry felt a lump in his throat as the realization hit him. This was their home. Mabel's eyes widened in shock as she saw Henry. Ella, recognizing her father, gasped. Henry stood up, his legs trembling. "Mabel, Ella, I didn't know," he stammered, his voice barely a whisper. Mabel, composed and dignified, looked at him with a mixture of pity and disdain. "You've lost your way, Henry. This is not the place for you." She turned to the young woman who had escorted him in. "Please show him out." Henry's shame was palpable. He couldn't find the words to express his regret. As he was led out of the mansion, he took one last look at the life that could have been his. Overwhelmed by guilt and despair, he ran out of the house and onto the streets, where he wandered aimlessly. In the days that followed, Henry found himself living on the streets, his life a far cry from the grandeur he had once known. He had lost everything: his wealth, his family, and his dignity. The city that had once promised him everything had taken it all away. Karma had caught up with him, and he was left to face the consequences of his actions. Henry's story became a cautionary tale, a reminder of the importance of integrity and the high cost of deceit. As he roamed the streets of Lagos, he thought often of Mabel and Ella and the life he had abandoned in Kijiji. Regret was his constant companion, a reminder of the choices that had led him to his downfall. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories.